The Chishi is not just supplementary training. The Chishi is karate training. It is helping to develop your musculature to allow you to practice karate better. Onegaishimasu. Welcome back to the Goju Ryu Karate Center. Basic ideas of things that you can do. So if you have some kind of lever-based implement, it could also be a small sledgehammer, whether it's a 2 pound, 4 pound sledgehammer, that would be a good way to train. 2 pounds, approximately 2 kgs. So one, you've got the Chishi, most of the time just picking it up and down. Since Paul Enfield released a video, 9 minutes of ideas with the Chishi, and I would strongly recommend that everybody watch it, because he talks about just small exercises to actually develop individual muscle groups that are going to improve your karate. What I'm going to look at is the big movement and translating that to our karate, to our training. So for instance, if we take Chishi 1, we bring the Chishi up, down, and dropping. If I'm using a bigger Chishi and I'm stabilizing, just bring it up and down. Try watch what this arm's getting up to, and not so much the Chishi. And this relaxed and tighten. Relaxed and tighten. Now, take that and imagine, where do I have something similar in my training? And we're going, pulling the hand out and around. Okay? Change this position to this position. So we start with hammer fist. I can also take the Chishi and bring it over my head. Maybe I drop 1, 2. So bent arm, straight arm. Okay? Problematic with the bigger Chishi, the weight in your face, but you can work towards this. What you tend to find is that you start building more like Seppai, because then the arm's straight. How does it work? Where does it go? Brian, please come here. Hey. Onegaishimasu. Brian's punching Jordan. 1, 2, and 3. All right? So in a slow motion environment, when he's punching 1, under, and turning, what I've done is I've effectively hyperextended his neck, and I then press down. Will this work in every single fight? No, but if I tweak it ever so slightly for the idea of a little bit more pragmatic kind of fighting. So we take the idea of the hikyuke and the moving to the outside that we did in like a video two weeks ago. So he goes 1, 1, 2. Now I'm using the same principle. I'm hyperextending and then I'm pressing downward. I'm working on this idea of, if I can hyperextend the neck, we can work towards bringing the person down and having some kind of point of finishing off. So as he takes the hook, 1, if the person has long hair, grabbing that hair and pulling does the same thing. Hitting into the face and over the nose. I spent a lot of time with Sensei Ronnie Kluger of Israel, Jindokan Shohombu, and this is very, very popular in his training and in his classes, attacking the hyperextension, but also attacking the nose, the mouth, the airway, so that you're struggling to breathe. And a couple of different variations that he liked to use a lot. And they have great merit. As a Krav Maga instructor and senior from the Krav Maga environment. So doing this kind of stuff and hyperextending, he also can't see me. Obviously, if I go a little bit more like Seppai, I'm then onto his neck. So Brian, just change orientation. So we're doing onto his neck. This hand is important. Hopefully I'm not damaging the mic. And then stepping and dropping into my stance. And there's a bent knee that is structurally sound that is falling, probably spine or kidneys falling onto. And this is useful in combat. It's going to be very painful. It's going to do a little bit of damage, hopefully, and going to change the situation that we're in. First exercise with the Chishi. So, thanks, Brian. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. This pulling motion is kind of, can I get this arm up, increase flexibility, and can I bring my arm back? Hey, Brian. So probably not the most practical explanation for a technique is elbow strike backwards. 1, 2, elbow strike. So for little kiddies, it's kind of useful because often bullies grabbing onto them, and they do elbow in the guts, soft solar plexus, young children. Another kiddie is maybe this is not a good idea. So maybe it has a little bit of value there. For us, pulling back could also mean that I am working on grabbing and seizing. So Brian is again hooking, and we're going to change the idea. Maybe I make this work, and maybe I don't. So he hooks. 1, block, catch, pulling down this way. Pulling down and around. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so as 1, 2, I can attack face, but I can also just simply attack this arm. You often see this in various guises and forms of Aikido, where there will be attack, 1, some kind of stepping, and eventually you see the person somehow miraculously, it's so advanced in the stepping, I struggle with it. But you get to the point where you're attacking the arm like this. We're going to take the most direct, pragmatic route, grabbing and pulling. So we're in this kind of position. Brian takes a hook. 1, 2, 3, can carry on, or we can just go down with this arm. Obviously, reality says that hand's going to come flying at your head, but I've affected him massively. So, kind of a useful idea just to work on. A couple of ideas working on it. There's a couple of ideas here as well. Pulling. This idea of grabbing, pulling. There's also a lot of leverage that you can work on. So we're looking at where possibly will this facilitate? Where will it help? Where will I find something similar in my karate technique? That's kind of basic. Just getting the arm out, slamming the person. So that exercise plus the makiwara and sanchin dachi or sanchin kata kind of punch, tighten, this idea, and back. Kind of all knit together. So important that in 1 or 2 of our most basic exercises, we have got the building blocks of strengthening and conditioning with the Chishi, but also that we're practicing some part of our kihon, of our foundation, of our fundamentals, that we're improving a little bit. Okay, we go to maybe drop and round, sometimes down and over, just down and over, or slightly bigger, over the shoulder. So I'm going to lump that, down and drop, and around the shoulder, as well as around the head. I'm putting all 3 of these together with, well, this one is kind of just rotation. This is the other half, and then the full 360-degree rotation. So a lot of the time we spend working on that, we're actually working on trying to increase our flexibility, elbow to body on chest block. This chest block, or this double chest block, seems to be the cornerstone for a lot of the patterns of Goju Ryu karate. If you're ever asked, what should it look like? A lot of the time, the first place people will go to is Sanchin Dutch, and then they'll say, oh, it's Hiki-uke, hands need to be this way. Or what we term Kake-uke might be this way. The hand, same kind of position. Some schools, everything is different. Each one is uniquely different. But with us, it tends to always come back to this. If we're doing Kurumfa, there is the same concept, although maybe the hand is further out. And it's just the distance that's the same. And the elbow is out. If I do both elbows, and I come back, and I keep the distance the same, then I'm back to this. I'm doing scissortion, I'm back to this. So it's a very, very common section of our karate that we're looking at, and we're working on this here. And the reason it's important is flexibility. Most people are not flexible enough through the shoulder joint, the glenohumeral joint, okay? And they tend to struggle. My research as a young varsity student when I went to university was on acute rotator cuff injuries caused by karate. And the general piece of information that I gathered from it, firstly, there's not a lot on karate and martial arts relative to the injury. I think it's 30 years later, it's probably changed a little bit, nearly 30 years later. The next thing is, this is quite easy to damage. The rotator cuff is essentially 4 muscles. They're easy to damage, and believe it or not, they're also easy to condition. So what I found was that a lot of our supplementary training exercises, when they're neglected, you have more injuries. And the more you do supplementary training, the less likely you're going to have injuries. So the Chishi, improving your flexibility, but also your ability to handle stress and load through that. Chest block, this, chest block and out. Chest block and out. So Brian, please come. Brian is punching and blocking, and I'm hitting. It's the most basic idea of this movement. Okay, block, press his arm down, bring your hand up, use the same hand, just bang him in the face with collarbone. Or second attack is coming. So there's a punch coming, let's say I'm doing this, and now we go from a heavy, sticky movement, more soft, to a hard, attacking movement, Ju. No, I got that wrong. A heavy, sticky movement. Heavy, kind of sticky, soft movement, softish movement. Then the hard movement, go. That way around. Go. Attacking down. Interesting ideas? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, hint. Something from Superumpe. Or maybe from Seisan after the Hiki-uke. So there's this hitting down, attacking the arm. Something that we often don't like doing is the conditioning training, because it does tend to leave the average human being with blue marks that need to be explained from time to time unless you can button down shirts. And eventually, after a bit of time, your body gets more used to it. But if you're starting karate and you suddenly have blue marks everywhere and you're going into a professional workplace, people are going to ask questions. And this can be counterproductive. So bearing in mind a certain amount of sensei responsibility to my students to make sure that when they go to the workplace, they're not suddenly going to find themselves in an awkward situation where they have to explain why they have marks on their body from something that they're doing, versus, especially the ladies, I've had a couple of ladies come in and say, you know, I went to work and we did some forearm conditioning, and there were questions raised about what's going on in my home and in my private life. Different story for another day maybe, but the reality is we need to be cognizant of this when we do this kind of training. The idea of that round part, kind of holding the weight here, there's that integrity or the strength training. So maybe Brian is punching to my face, and punch Brian. I'm working on my age-uke, and I only use one arm there, so typically that I get the idea of in and ride and press, and you can see something that is a little bit more aggressive and more forward in motion. And then if I take the same idea with a little bit of stickiness, and he's punching to my face, and I change my body position, now we're looking at something like that. If I use the other hand, Brian, the same technique. Okay, he punches one, and we're looking at elbow strike there. And that is all part of our basics of age-uke. And the conditioning here, shoulder to hold the person, is important. Something that I don't think a lot of people understand, we're going to do something, Brian, we want to see how strong you are. Brian obviously knows he's going to fail the test. Okay, we're going to do a lifting exercise. So Brian, put your hand against your body, and we're going to turn slightly this way, and I'm going to put my hand on, and Brian is going to lift his arm from this position to face block position. Okay, lift, Brian. Come on, Brian. What's wrong, Brian? Come on, Brian. Lift it up, Brian. Okay, let's say I'm cheating. All right, because Brian clearly, can't match my super sensei powers. I've got these magical, mystical powers. Bullshit. Oops. Hey, let's go. Put your hand here. The deltoid struggles to activate beyond this plane, and it now has to transfer to a different set of muscles. And it's really, really difficult to explain why an arm would travel like this for face block when this muscle cannot raise the arm there if there is any load. Obviously, I was cheating a little bit because what I did was I locked down with my elbow. So we're going to try the same thing now. I'm going to just put my hand there. I'm going to keep straight arm. So it's going to be his deltoid against my deltoid. Okay, go, Brian. And again, if you imagine this being a fight and he's trying to stop my punch, how much harder it is going to be. And the fact that he's dedicating so much energy here means that's going to be easy. So within our karate technique, this holding a weight and suspending a weight here has got very little to do with this. You could probably, Brian, will you bring me either a dumbbell or a kettlebell, please? Okay. You could probably practice it with a weight like this. And yes, you will grow stronger. Just a small kettlebell will fine, those 3 kg is great. Hey, thank you. So, I could practice this and help develop the muscle and help develop the muscles on the back. But it's still really going to be a battle of my anatomy and physiology versus understanding where I'd like to be. I'd like to be here. I'd like to have integrity here. When we do this and we have this locked down, you're going to notice I'm going to turn sideways, not directly up. I'm going to have my arm slightly forward. So I'm actually going to try and stabilize using the back of this joint and allow the head of the humerus to press backwards into the joint. And I'm going to stabilize it by tightening the muscles around my shoulder blade, my scapula, and by pulling down on my lat and my trap. So I don't want this, where this is pulling out and rolling out. I'm actually going to try and pull it down and lock everything into place. Brian, please come. Hey. Right hand, Jodan Zuki. So this idea of lifting. Now, let's have a look at what I'm doing. I'm lifting. Actually, let's use the left side. His hand is here. His rib cage, muscles are nice and tight, pulling down. I'm lifting, all exposed. How does that feel, Brian?
Not great.
Rating out of pain?
Not too bad.
Not too bad. Okay, that's with this kind of direct punch. I take my punch and I change the angle. I go up a little bit. How's that feel, Brian? So if I raise the arm and I hit upward into the floating ribs, I'm going to create a lot more pain. So if we take this position when we're doing the Chishi, whether we're going this way or this way, what we're doing is we're stabilizing this, and it's helping us develop that holding and pinning position. So punch Jordan, one, holding and pinning. This is important. This is a building block. Later on, this becomes this and this. So it has that similarity. And if I take this and I extend it down and out and maybe change my stance, then maybe I come back to something similar to the opening move of Kururumfa. So the importance of the Chishi in building from not just Giksara Ichi, but all the way to senior katas like maybe Kururumfa and Seisan and Superumpe is a reality. Hey, thanks, Brian. Two-handed over the shoulder and drop this exercise, and then obviously tightening and down and tightening and down. It's quite easy. Jump straight away, hands coming down, and immediately we're practicing Kururumfa. So do the exact same exercise with the Chishi. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. And you gradually can work your way up. And obviously the practical implications of that is pulling down, arm bars, breaking arms on shoulders. That's a very useful part of our training, and it links together. Every piece of our training that we're doing with the Chishi, if we know basic Chishi kata or copying Chishi exercises from Higohana Sensei, Paul Enfield, Jundokan, OGKK, if it is a traditional set of movements or a set of movements that can be parallel to karate, the Chishi is not just supplementary training. The Chishi is karate training. It is helping to develop your musculature to allow you to practice karate better and to be strong and tough enough to do karate on a higher level. So if there's something to train during the Christmas period, hopefully you have a Chishi and you can practice your basics through doing Chishi training, but also seeing the link between Chishi and maybe some kind of combat, either Bunkai or Kyo-Nippon. So that's kind of important. Obviously, you always go back to your dojo, you do what your sensei says, get some ideas from your sensei. Saw a very important little disclaimer at the bottom of Sensei Paul Enfield's video. If you're somebody who's struggling with health issues, please consult a medical practitioner before you try and do any of this stuff, before you do yourself an injury. And obviously, have a look at the most basic ideas first, become competent with them. Gradual overload is a very important process for us. Please don't jump to the heaviest possible weight. Try and use a smaller weight. One of the beauties of Chishi training is if I am not capable of training with a heavy-ish weight, even if I've got a small weight, if I start here, the exercise is generally easy, and as I move my hand further away from the weight, working on the leverage, actually the torque, I'm going to increase the torque that is required across my musculature. And that is what's creating the work while I'm training. And that's also going to create the resistance training that's going to improve your physique, but also improve your flexibility, especially through the joints. It's very, very important, shoulder, elbow joints, that we try and improve our flexibility. It's going to improve my coordination. The more smooth I can do it, the better I'm getting to grips with the movement. If the movement's very static, then there's clearly something wrong with my ability to transfer energy in a smooth way. which is critical for Goju Ryu karate because not everything is hard and snappy. A lot of movements are slower and there is an engagement of muscles from the moment of contact right through. And that's why it's so important to do kakie, because that kakie teaches us that engagement over space and time. So everything tends to be very, very interlinked. Have a fantastic holiday. If you're training during the holidays, I hope this video will help you. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much. Sayonara.